The 2021 NBA Draft is in the books, and it's time to hand out some draft grades for the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll go player by player here and then get more analysis as well once we give you guys a chance to grade. Their Sixers' first pick, Jaden Springer out of Tennessee. This was the number 28th overall pick, and I was a little bit surprised he fell as far as he did all the way down to number 28. And this might sound a little bit familiar to what the Sixers have had in recent years, but this is a potential 3-and-D player. Now, the shooting is not quite there yet. He did shoot 43.5% from deep this year, but not on a very high volume of three-point shooting. That is a potential red flag there. His jumper overall was not particularly good. But he's got a lot of intrigue as a defensive player. He's got a good wingspan. He's a good hustler. The defense is there. I think he feels the game pretty well. If the jumper ends up coming along, look out for Jaden Springer. This could end up being a very intriguing fit alongside Tyrese Maxey potentially in Philadelphia. I like this pick by the 76ers. Thought it was really good value in round one. I thought he could have gone mid-first as opposed to late first, and we will talk more about him later on in today's video. However, I want to talk about some of the round two picks here as well. Again, I think I'm pronouncing it right. Filip Petrusev. I feel good about the last name. First name, I'm not sure if it's Philip or Philippe, but either way, Filip Petrusev. Americans know him too, not just an overseas player. He spent a lot of time with Gonzaga, where, by the way, he was an All-American. Despite that, he chose to leave. He chose to not enter the NBA draft and instead jumped overseas, played in Serbia, the Adriatic League, and fared very well. Petrusev was able to score 21.2 points per game. He won the Adriatic League MVP, led the league in scoring, was a top prospect award winner, best player in the league, all that good stuff. He shot 46.2% from deep. But unlike the other two draft picks for the 76ers, Petrusev does not offer nearly what you want, and it might end up being a deal breaker for him in the NBA on the defensive side of the ball. He can score, he can play on offense. It's the defense that's going to be a major question mark, plus passing, by the way, for Petrusev in the NBA. He turned the ball over more in both Gonzaga and in Serbia than he actually had assists. That is a bit of a red flag. On the opposite end for the big man, Charles Bassey, Western Kentucky, the former 5-star recruit, a top 10 player in his recruiting class who went to Western Kentucky. It just never quite broke out for him for Western Kentucky. And he went back for his sophomore year after a promising freshman year, tore his ACL. Clearly the medical ended up checking out for the 76ers with this particular pick. Look, he goes 53rd overall. He was 57 on the Chat Sports big board. Feels about right. The turnovers are a major problem. Gives the ball away way too often. Although he's not quick, he does offer some rim running ability for the 76ers as an impact player there. As a backup center, he's not going to be a starter. You never want to see him playing big minutes over Joel Embiid. That means Embiid's hurt. But defensively, there's some stuff to work with here for the 76ers. A good late round 2 pick if he ends up being a two-way guy earlier in his NBA career. So grade the 76ers draft class for me here. A, B, C, D, or F. How you feeling about what the Sixers did despite a lack of a trade for Ben Simmons? Get your votes in for me right now in the comments section. Overall, look, it's pretty solid. I like the value of Springer. I'll be generous. Again, they're drafting late in round 1 and late in round 2, so they're not going to be getting a superstar player in all likelihood. But for where they were drafting, I thought Philadelphia did a pretty good job. I think Jaden Springer can be a more top half of the bench rotation guy in the NBA. If the shooting can come along, again, we've seen some flashes. He did shoot well when he shot from deep. Again, shot over 43%. Was an 81% free throw shooter. It's just the jumper was not consistent. The mid-range game is not there yet. He has 3-and-D, 2-guard potential if he can step up and develop that jumper consistently. Could even be the occasional backup point guard, but probably looking for more of a role player type of guy. I don't see star potential in Springer. But for where you're drafting, if you can get a reliable backup guard, a nice two-way player you can even play in some crunch time moments as maybe your number 3 overall guard on your roster, that's really good value late in round 1. Do you guys want more 76ers videos? It's simple. We get to 1,000 subscribers, we can do more for you guys. We want to keep you guys updated on if and when Ben Simmons gets traded. But we need more subscribers or else our Knicks channel is right there neck and neck with you guys. So if you want more videos, hit that big red button and subscribe today. Again, I want to go a little bit more in depth on the 2 big men here. The Sixers added Filip Petrusev. I'm intrigued. I don't know if he'll end up being anything in the NBA. He simply might end up being one of the top European players who just can't make it in the NBA, but will have a long and prosperous European career. The offense is there. The stretch shooting makes this intriguing. I just don't know if the defensive ability is there for Petrusev. I wish it was. I want it to be. I'm just not convinced from that perspective. On the flip side, Charles Bassey is like the inverse of Petrusev. He's not a great offensive stretch shooting player. He shot 30.5% from deep this past year, but it was not on a very high volume of three-point shots, so he's not really going to be a stretch guy. He's got the defense that Petrusev lacks. Petrusev has all the offensive touch you're searching for in a poor man's Enes Kanter. Bassey, I think, a little bit more of maybe a Rashawn Holmes, Daniel Gafford, if you guys remember him out of Arkansas a couple years ago. I think in the end, this is more of a rotation piece. Maybe they become like your 11th or 12th men. But even though I like Petrusev more, I wonder if Bassey will have an easier time carving out a role in the NBA because of what he could bring on the defensive side of the ball. So what was your favorite draft pick here by the 76ers? Was it Springer? That was what it was for me. Petrusev or maybe even Bassey? Get your votes in for me right now in the comments section. Of course, the number one thing long-term for the Sixers is what the hell you do with Ben Simmons. Some whispers a trade could end up going down. Ended up not being the case for the Sixers, at least on draft night. Make it for an intriguing storyline here as they move forward around the NBA. That will be the top story for the Sixers as they've asked for a James Harden package for a player who was scared to shoot in the NBA playoffs, and that's an issue. One last note before we go. A two-way deal for Aaron Henry has been agreed to with the 76ers. This is the former Michigan State player. There's some intriguing upside here, but in general, I'm a little bit concerned when a Michigan State player at Tom Izzo, despite some decent production, never quite took that step. The shooting has gone in the wrong direction each of his 3 years at Michigan State. If the jumper doesn't get things figured out, he's never going to be an NBA player. If he does hit, again, the defense is there. Maybe you could end up becoming a bit of a 3-and-D player. I think more likely, though, Aaron Henry spends a lot of time in the G League for the 76ers.